Good morning, Algebra 2. This is the video recorded lesson for Thursday, August 20th. If you would please join the remind so that I can text you guys in case I need you, okay? Alright, so we're going to go check out the lesson. Today we are going to be solving quadratic equations. The first unit is revisiting quadratics, and so what we've been doing is we have been learning about complex numbers. Complex numbers show up when you have a square root, and we are going to be using square roots today to solve quadratics. And so we got some kind of basic guidelines here to go by. Your number one goal is to get x squared by itself. At that point, we will take the square root of both sides of the equation, because what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And we should always get two answers. One's going to be a positive answer, and the other one's going to be a negative answer. Now, I have a little catchphrase that I use with my students when solving equations in general, right? And that is S-A-V-M-E-P, SADMAP. And so SADMAP is a way to remember how to solve an equation. So if I can add a page, that would be subtract, add, divide, multiplication, exponents, and then parentheses. And yes, if you paid attention to that, that is PEMDAS backwards. That is your order of operations backwards. And so subtraction and addition are together, division and multiplication are together, and parentheses is always last. So anything that's in the parentheses, we're going to try our best to do completely last. Now, there is one problem in our examples today that doesn't allow us to do the parentheses last. But we'll take care of that when we get there. So, SADMAP. So let's go ahead and start looking at problem number 1. Sorry about that. I just moved my microphone a little bit closer, so you should be able to hear me a little bit better, hopefully. So, SADMAP. All right, so we're going to take this first problem. I'm going to take this first problem right here, number 1, and we're going to say, what can we do first out of SADMAP? So, is there any addition and subtraction that can be done to get x squared by itself? Yes. So we are going to subtract 4 on both sides of the equation. That gives us x squared equals negative 4. Okay? So now that we have the x squared by itself, we're in this step 2 right here that says take the square root of both sides of the equation. So we're going to take square root, make sure you do both sides of the equation. When you square a square root, the square and square root cancel each other out, leaving you with just the x. So we have x on the left. Now, this is where we get a little complicated. This is where our math actually comes in. This is not done, okay? So, you're going to get 2 answers. It says there will always be 2 answers. There'll be a positive answer and a negative answer. So when we take the square root, we are going to end up with a positive answer and a negative answer. All right, so now we just got finished taking a quiz, and we spent 2 days on taking the square root of negative 4. Since you have a negative underneath a radical, this answer is going to be imaginary. So, this square root of negative 4 answer should be 2i. two answers, both a positive answer and a negative answer. The answer is imaginary because you have a negative underneath the radical. The answer is 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So that is the final answer, and the two answers actually, for problem number 1. All right, let's go check out problem number 2. All right, so I'm going to write this down up here real quick. All right, so is there any addition, subtraction outside of a parentheses that we can do first? Yes, there is. So we will subtract 3 from both sides. So half x squared equals 9. So we have done the subtraction and addition. Is there any division or multiplication that we can do to get x squared by itself? Yes. So we will multiply both sides by 2. That gives us x squared equals 18. And we are at the square root spot. So we're going to square root both sides of the equation. That automatically gives us x equals a plus minus. The square root is automatically the plus minus. Remember, you're going to get 2 answers per problem. And now we have to simplify the square root of 18. So part of our quiz, part of what we did on Monday, was simplifying square roots. So 18 breaks down into 9 times 2, 9 being a perfect square. So square root of 18 would be 3, hang on, let's get the right color. 3 square roots of 2. This problem does not have an I in it because the 18 does not have a negative with it, so we have 2 real solutions for this problem. Okay, moving on. That's the SADMEP that we talked about. Let's check out problem number 3. Problem number 3 is the problem that I talked about where you cannot do the stuff inside the parentheses last. We're actually going to have to distribute the 2 into the parentheses before we can do anything else. So 2x squared minus 10 equals negative x squared minus 1. Okay, so that's the distribution. All right, I told you this was kind of a weird problem it doesn't really match the other ones, but we're in it, so we're going to do it. All right, so at this point, we want to get both x squareds on the same side of the equal sign. So we'll add x squared, add x squared. Remember, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So that gives us 3x squared minus 10 equals negative 1. All right, so remember, the goal is to get x squared by itself. So we add 10. Three x squared equals 9. So that was the addition and subtraction that was possible. Now we'll go and do division. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. X squared equals 3. Kind of a long problem. And we're at square rooting. So we square root both sides. X squared equals plus minus. The plus minus comes directly from the square root. What is the square root of 3? Square root of 3 is not a perfect square root. So we leave it as the square root of 3. Remember, what you cannot do, you don't want to do. So if we can't square root something, we're not going to. So that's problem number 3. Remember, you can pause the video at any time. You can replay this video at any time. I'm going to keep on trucking through problem number 4. And we're going to write up here, just to remember the order in which to do things. So is there any addition, subtraction outside the parentheses that we can do? Yes. We can add 1 to both sides. So that's 1/3 x plus 4 equals 6. There's a square in this. Square. All right. So subtraction and addition outside the parentheses are done. Is there any multiplication or division I can do? So here we are. We're at multiplication and division. So we can multiply by 3. X plus 4 squared equals 18. All right. So done with that. Exponents. Are there any exponents outside the parentheses that we can do? Yes, it's the first time we've seen a square on a binomial, but we are still at the square root process, okay? That's plus and minus. It's an automatic plus minus. The x, sorry, that was supposed to be black. Still supposed to be black. I don't know what's happening there. Come on, black. X plus 4 equals, the square root of 18 has to be simplified. We've seen this already. That is 9 times 2. So that is going to be 3 square roots of 2. And we're right back at the front of SADMAP. So once we've worked our way through the order in which to solve an equation, and we've gotten past the parentheses, we come right back up to the front. Is there any addition, subtraction we can do? Yes, we can subtract 4. Which gives us x equals, now, all of this stuff that's in here, okay, it can't be simplified. So basically what I've circled is basically your answer. You just have to write it properly. So we're going to write that down as the whole number first, the -4, plus minus the radical 3 square roots of 2. And that is the finished version of problem number 4. All right, so I'm going to end this little video, and I'm going to start another one, starting with problem number 5. All right, so we're going to go through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in this next part of the video. And I'm going to go kind of quick because you can pause the video at any time. So I'm just going to give myself some space. I'm going to get rid of those blue dashed lines. And here we go. Problem number 5. Any addition, subtraction due outside the parentheses? No. There's no subtraction addition, so we go straight to division. So we're going to divide everything by 4. So when we do that, the x plus 5 stays there, and 64 divided by 4 is, it's going to be a -16. Okay, so we have got through the division multiplication, so now we're on the exponent. How do we get rid of that exponent? We take a square root. So the square root cancels the square, so it's x plus 5 equals, all right, so plus minus, because every time you take a square root, you get 2 answers. The square root of -16 is 4i. The I comes from the negative, directly from the negative. So parts of that, let's see. So the square root gives the plus minus, the negative gives the I. So that's where those things came from. All right, and so we're right back at the front of SADMET. We subtract the 5 from both sides. Once again, these are unlike terms. Not that much. These are unlike terms. So you can't actually add or subtract this stuff. You can't actually add and subtract this. But what we can do is write it down together as an answer. So complex numbers, real number first, -5, plus minus the imaginary part, which is 4i. And that's problem number 5. Number 6, we're going to subtract the 338. (2x squared) equals -338. Okay, big point of confusion here. Which do you do first? Do you divide the 2 or do you take the square root? We're going to divide the 2 because division comes before the exponents in SADMET. So we just finished subtraction. Okay, now we're on division. So we're going to divide by 2 before we take the square root. Okay, so I'm going to have to get a calculator because I don't know what 338 divided by 2 is. So 338 divided by 2 is 169. So that is -169. We are on a square root now. Square root, square root. Remember, anytime you take a square root, you're getting 2 answers. We have a negative, therefore this is going to be imaginary. 169 is a perfect square. This ends up being 13i as your final answer. All right, just to continue working problems. In SADMET, first thing we can do in problem number 7 is the division, because there's no subtraction and addition outside the parentheses. So we're going to divide by 5. So x minus 4 squared equals 25. Okay. Moving on to exponents. Take the square root, both sides. X minus 4 equals plus minus 5. There's no I on this problem because 25 does not have a square root. Parentheses are gone, so we go back up to the front of SADMET. So we add 4 to both sides. Now here we have like terms. We can actually come up with 2 different answers. 5 and 4 can be added together. So we have x equals 4 plus 5, and we have x equals 4 minus 5. In previous problems, we've seen something like this. We've had i's and we've had radicals, so we were not able to actually combine these numbers. So we need to finish this off. 4 plus 5 is 9. Second answer, 4 minus 5 is -1. And these 2 numbers right here become the solution to that problem. All right, 3 quick ones. Add 3. Multiply both sides by 7. Square root both sides. square root gives you the plus minus. The square root of 49 is perfect. So you get 7 and negative 7. So those are your two answers. Number 9. Adding 2. We do addition subtraction first if we can. Negative, sorry, wrong color. Negative 3/5 x squared equals negative 3. Multiply both sides by a reciprocal. This is going to be one of those things you really want in your tool bags, okay? Things that you can do. So we're going to multiply by negative 5/3. We're going to flip the fraction 3/5, multiply by a fraction. So negative 5/3. X squared equals negative 3 and negative 5/3 is going to come up, totaling all that out, to just be 5. Essentially what happens is the 3 and the 3 cancel out, plus the two negatives cancel out, and you just end up with the 5 that's hanging out there. Take the square root of both sides. X equals plus minus. Can't take the square root of 5, it's not perfect, so we won't take the square root of 5. We will leave it all the day and move on. Last problem, and then I'll show you the homework assignment, which should be uploaded into CTLS by the time you get here. So, no addition subtraction to do, so we will divide by negative 9. Remember, division is done prior to taking the square root. X squared equals, I don't know that division, so let's get the calculator. 243 divided by negative 9 is negative 27. Square root both sides. X equals plus minus. All right, so now we have a negative we have to deal with. That's going to be imaginary. We have 27 we have to deal with. So 27 breaks down 9 times 3. So in all of that, we got plus and minus from the square root. We're going to take the square root of 9. It's going to be 3. The negative gives us an I. And the square root of 3 cannot be done. So we leave it as square root of 3. I don't like that blemish hanging out right there. And that is the final answer. All right, moving on to your homework. There are, on page 6, there are 15 problems similar to the ones that we just did. Each problem is going to have 2 answers, so please make sure you're coming up with 2 answers. And please do your best. We're trying everything we can to get everything uploaded into CTLS so that you don't have to email me the answers. Thanks for your participation, guys. Feel free to look at this video at any time. I look forward to seeing you in class.